Hello, my name is Hannah Hodgson, and today we will be discussing two different professional development modules that are used in instructional design. So, our first module consists of Kirkpatrick's training evaluation model. So, this model determines if training or professional development was effective, changes educators' behaviors, and met the school goals. So, this model focuses on how are teachers utilizing the training that they were given in a specific instructional method, in technology, or in whatever else they're being given a professional development on over the summer or during the school year. It is used in a range of settings to provide evidence that shows the effect of training and is a basis for other evaluation models. So, Kirkpatrick's is actually used in business a lot as well. So, you'll see this throughout big companies being used to see if their employees are using the training that they have given them and if it's changing their behaviors, their viewpoints, and if they're actually using it in the classroom or in their other work. So here's a visual of Kirkpatrick's evaluation model. So we have four different levels. The first level being the reaction, second level is learning, third level is behavior, and then our fourth level is the results. So our reaction level is where we are conducting surveys to determine how educators felt about the professional development. So we do this in our district. Our assistant superintendent of academics will send out a Google form asking us how we felt the training went, if we felt we were going to use it in the classroom, what could be changed for next year. And they always even throw in the question of what would we like to see be taught to us during our in-service days. And really, we're just getting a feel for the culture of our educators, determining is this something that they're using in this classroom? Were they satisfied with the training? Was the setting of the professional development appropriate, as in the time and the place? Was it too short? Was it too long? What were the strengths of this professional development, and what aspects could be improved on if we're going to use it again next year? What could we change to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our educators? And then, will you use this professional development in the classroom? Is this something that you see yourself using to benefit your students, to make sure that they are closing that gap and meeting the goals of the school or the district? After that comes level two, where we're in the learning phase. So now evaluators are assessing how much educators have learned from the professional development, if their skills have improved, if their attitudes changed, if their behaviors changed, if their confidence changed. We're evaluating to see, has this changed how our educators felt about a certain topic. For example, a different discipline method might be used one year from the next year, and are our teachers taking that different discipline plan that they were taught and using it in the classroom? Are they using it and following through so that the school is consistent in using the same discipline plan? Level three is behavior, where educators are actually observed and evaluated in the classroom for their utilization of what was taught in the professional development. So, an evaluator or an administrator, most likely, is actually sitting in the classroom observing what the teacher is using, how they're using it, if they're even using it in the first place. Was it successful? Are the students enjoying the use of it? It's the action of actually watching the teachers. And then level four is the results. So this is where the effectiveness of the professional development is measured and analyzed to determine if the new skill or knowledge is pushing students towards their goals and objectives. So this is where we're looking at actual data. We're determining when we did not give our teachers this new professional development compared to when we did give them the new professional development and when they did use it in the classroom. Is there a difference in that gap between where students are and where we want them to be? Are we filling that gap, and are our students getting to where we want them to be? And then we have our second module, which focuses on Pebble in the Pond model. So this is more of an instruction type model rather than a training evaluation. This model focuses on creating a classroom that is problem centered rather than the traditional teacher centered classroom. So, students are using their critical thinking skills, their problem solving skills to actually solve a problem rather than just being talked at by the teacher in a lecture style classroom. This creates meaningful and effective learning experiences for our students because they're taking information and they have to figure out how to use it. And we're always telling our students, and educators are always being told, make sure we're applying this to a real life situation to our students so they know that it applies to them and they'll use it again. And that's what we're doing here is we're giving them a problem and trying to make them solve the problem with the content that they've learned. In this type of model, educators' instructions are usually effective, efficient, and engaging. Students are engaged in what they're doing because they're able to sit there and figure the problem out on their own rather than the teacher talking at them and telling them, complete this worksheet. So there are 5 ripples in the model that influence instruction to be problem centered. We call them ripples because it's like you're going to skip a stone or just throw a stone in a pond, in a river. You're throwing the stone in, and as soon as that stone hits the water and breaks through the water, we're creating these ripples after the water hits. So this pebble or the stone is the problem that's greeting the pond, and as soon as that pebble goes through the water, it's creating these ripple effects where it can solve the problem. So here's also another visual for pebble in the pond instructional design model. We have this one has 6, but essentially 5 and 6 are combined for the point of this presentation. So we identify our problem as our first step, or our first ripple is what we're going to call them. Our second ripple is designing a progression of problems. Third ripple is design instruction for competent skills. The fourth ripple is design instructional strategy enhancements. And the fifth and sixth kind of combined into one is finalize the instructional design as well as design the evaluation. So we kind of did it backwards. We discussed a training evaluation first, and now we're going to discuss an instructional design model for how we can set up our instruction in the classroom. So like we said, the ripples are ripple 1 is the problem. What are we going to give our students to figure out? I feel like this could be amazing in physics. We could give our students a problem of how am I going to catapult a certain object across the room and it be the furthest item. So you have your catapult that you're going to design. You have to make it using your physics skills to be the furthest item being catapulted across the room. So that could be our problem. Ripple 2 is the progression of the problem. So how are our students trying to figure this out? How do we want to kind of guide them to figure out this problem? What are we going to do to push them a little bit further and help them through the process, since this is not a traditional teaching style that they're used to or instructional style that they're used to. Ripple 3 is the skills. So these are the competent skills that they need in order to solve this problem. And this could be laid out by the teacher as well. This is what you need to solve this problem. If you haven't already tried it, I'm giving you these skills now. Look at your catapult and adjust. Look at the problem and adjust to figure out how to solve the problem. Ripple 4 enhances strategies. So we're looking at giving students more help and guiding them throughout to ensure that they're using these different strategies. They're picking up on different strategies to solve this problem. Teachers could even give them some strategies that they could use to help them through the problem. And then the last ripple is Ripple 5, where students would be actually applying what they know and they're finalizing their process to get that catapult an item across the room. They're finalizing what they have to finish the problem, to solve the problem. And this is where they can also evaluate what they're doing, see if they need to make any changes, and then they can go through the problem again if the teacher wanted them to, where they're solving their problem, finalizing it, practicing, and then they're going to go back through and evaluate to figure out, okay, this is where we went wrong. Why don't we try this instead? So that's essentially everything that the Pebble in the pond model is students are aware of what the problem is, they're aware of the steps that they're taking, and they're able to try to solve the problem. And if that strategy doesn't work the first time, they're able to evaluate and redo and try a different strategy. So overall, both these methods are used in instructional design, where the Kirkpatrick training evaluation model is used to evaluate our trainings, and then the Pebble in the Pond instructional design model is there to guide teachers into creating a positive classroom environment where students are engaged.